Hello everyone, this is Attorney Amanda Thomas. Today's video is about document processing through the National Visa Center's CEAC system. This process is very detailed and it can take a lot of work. It can also be hard to navigate with a lot of different rules and requirements. This video is meant as an overview of that process. It will discuss what document processing is, what you need to do to get documentarily qualified, and how interviews are scheduled. So what is consular processing? Consular processing is essentially the second half of the process of obtaining a visa for your foreign relative living outside of the United States. In order to obtain an immediate relative visa for a family member abroad, the request must undergo processing at two separate administrative agencies. The first agency is USCIS, which is a branch of the Department of Homeland Security. The second agency is the Bureau of Consular Affairs, which is a branch of the Department of State. In the case of the petition for a spousal visa or immediate relative visa, USCIS first processes the I-130 petition for alien relative that is filed by the U.S. citizen on behalf of the foreign citizen relative. An approved I-130 is essentially permission to apply for an immediate relative visa. After the I-130 petition is approved by USCIS, it will physically be shipped to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is part of the Department of State's Bureau of Consular Affairs. The National Visa Center's job is to make sure all paperwork is in order and to schedule an interview at the consulate or embassy in the foreign relative's country. CEAC stands for Consular Electronic Application Center. It is the online portal through which most people submit their immigrant visa electronic application and documents to the National Visa Center for documentary qualification. Documentary qualification is what deems an application ready to be scheduled for an interview. So this is an important process. You want to know what you're doing because you could unintentionally waste a lot of time trying to navigate through the CEAC system to get documentarily qualified. So how do you receive access to the online portal? After approval from USCIS, the file gets physically shipped from USCIS to the National Visa Center. This can take a few weeks. Once the file gets to the National Visa Center, an email will be sent to you with login information. After you receive CEAC login information, the first thing you should do is pay the fees. The CEAC portal requires that you pay the fees before having access to the rest of the portal. There are two separate fees, which I believe total about $425. It will take a few days for these fees to process and to be granted access to the rest of the portal. After you pay the fees and have access to the rest of the portal, you should complete the IV application. The IV application, or Immigrant Visa Application, is the electronic version of Form DS-260. This form is filled out online by the foreign citizen family member. Filling out the IV application takes a lot of work, and it is one of the only parts of this process that an attorney cannot help you with. This is because the application is very detailed and asks a lot of personal information that the attorney cannot know. Also, the web page can time out if you do not provide it with an answer fast enough. If the foreign relative is not good at using a computer, they should ask for help from a friend or family member who can help them use a computer to complete the form. After you complete the IV application, the next thing you should do is begin uploading documents. After the IV application has been completed, it will be another few days before you have access to the portal where you can upload documents. But once access to that part of the portal is given, you can begin that process. You may think, why do I need to submit documents when I've already submitted so many documents to USCIS? I agree that submitting more documents is a bit nonsensical. Some of the documents that you will need to submit to the NVC are documents they probably already have. You must still submit those same documents through the CEAC system. Some documents, however, you will not have, and you will need to gather them and submit them through the CEAC system as well. Which documents need uploaded depends on the type of visa and what country the foreign relative lives in. As a practical matter, each document can be no bigger than 2 megabytes. The document must be clear and readable and must be in an acceptable file format. This can also be hard for people who are not good at using computers because documents often need compressed, scanned, or converted into different file formats. Again, if you're not good at using a computer, I suggest that you have either an attorney or a relative or a friend who's good at computers to help you with that stuff. The first big document you need to prepare is the Affidavit of Support. Most immediate relative visas require an Affidavit of Support. The Affidavit of Support is essentially a contract between the U.S. citizen and the U.S. government stating that the U.S. citizen will financially support the intending immigrant relative. The Affidavit of Support is its own complicated form with its own rules, and I can't get into those rules in this video. But if you are interested in a video about the Affidavit of Support, particularly at the National Visa Center, let me know down in the comments. Once you have completed the Affidavit of Support, you must upload the affidavit and its supporting documents through the CEAC system. However, you must separately upload each document. That means the affidavit and each supporting financial document should be in its own PDF and uploaded separately under separate headings. The next documents that you need to prepare and upload are the civil documents for the foreign relative. Which documents, again, depend on which type of visa and the home country. Typically, you will open the portal and see which documents they wish you to submit. For instance, in most cases, the NVC wants to see the foreign citizen's birth certificate. This is easy for most people, but it's not easy for everyone. Different countries have different record-keeping processes, and some people may not be able to obtain a particular document, or they may have multiple documents from different authorities for the same purpose. If you do not know which exact document you need to upload, you should check the Department of State's Document Reciprocity Schedule. I will put a link to that in the box below. You should also be careful with the upload of the passport biographic page. Almost always, the NVC wants to see the foreign national's passport bio page. Particularly, they are checking to make sure that there is at least 6 months left on the passport's validity. This is to make sure that you don't get to a visa interview appointment with an expired passport. An expired passport would delay the issuance of the visa. You also need to obtain police certificates. If the foreign relative is above the age of 16, they must submit police certificates from their home country. They may also need to submit additional police certificates from other countries if they have lived there for certain periods of time. A police certificate is a report by law enforcement about what, if any, criminal record the foreign national may have. Police certificates are only valid for 1 year. Every country has different procedures for obtaining a police certificate, so you should check the document reciprocity schedule in the link below. You should also be aware that documents in a foreign language need to be translated into English and include a certificate of accuracy. Once you have uploaded all the documents to the CEAC portal, you must submit them. This requires that you click the button to submit. Only once you hit this button will your documents get in line for review. Up until you hit submit, you can add, change, or delete documents. Once you hit submit, you cannot delete documents anymore, but you can add additional documents. However, I believe it is best to wait until you are sure you have all of the proper documents before you submit them, and submit them all at the same time. After you hit the submit button, everything that you have uploaded once again gets in line, this time to wait for officer review at the NVC. The timelines for this process have ballooned, just like most other things due to COVID. The National Visa Center publishes estimated wait times of document submission review, along with other estimated wait times such as case creation and inquiry responses. I will also include a link to that information in the box below. Once your documents are reviewed by an officer at the NVC, you will get an email and a message in the CEAC system that your application has either been deemed documentarily qualified, or you will be notified that some of your documents have been rejected, or you will be notified that you are required to submit additional documents. My experience is that the NVC will documentarily qualify a first-round document submission 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, the NVC will reject documents or require additional documents. Sometimes the NVC will rightfully reject a document, or they will rightfully request more documentation. But people at the NVC are also just people. Sometimes they mistakenly fail to accept documents, and sometimes they mistakenly request documents that they don't need. This probably occurs for any number of reasons, some of which probably have to do with simple human error. Perhaps the clerk did not look at your documents closely enough, or sometimes they misunderstand the rules, or they misunderstand the documents on the reciprocity list. It can often be hard to understand what the National Visa Center is communicating to you when they reject a document or request more. The messages they send are often short and hard to understand. They don't give a lot of information. It can also be hard to communicate with the NVC if they wrongfully rejected a document or if they are requesting unnecessary documents. However, the application will not get in line for an interview without being documentarily qualified. So the only thing to do is to comply with the document requests and try to give them everything that they need. After your application and documents have been deemed documentarily qualified, the application once again gets in line for an available interview date at the consulate or embassy. The consulate or embassy sends a list of available appointments to the National Visa Center once a month. The National Visa Center will then choose which applications get scheduled for an interview. They typically choose which application gets scheduled by the spot in line for which they are documentarily qualified. The amount of documentarily qualified cases waiting for an interview has also grown exponentially because of the pandemic. As each consulate or embassy is in a different country, each one had a different response to the pandemic. Some countries have fared better than others. Most have had to close down for periods of time during a wave of COVID. Even when they are open, they are often operating under limited capacity. This has led to a large bottleneck of documentarily qualified cases at the National Visa Center who have not been able to be scheduled for an interview appointment for quite some time. It is hard to say how long any particular person will be waiting for an interview because we don't know how long the backlog is for each individual consulate or embassy. This is why you want to make sure that you do whatever you need to do to get documentarily qualified, as a delay in uploading documents will ultimately result in your application being further down in the line for an interview. I have quite a bit of experience helping people through the document processing at the NVC. If you have trouble, or if you think it may be too much for you to handle on your own, please give me a call. I would be happy to help you through this process.